Afternoon, everybody. It's been a long 2 weeks, and so I apologize for not doing videos more often. This last week, it's kind of interesting how many people that I've been told that watch these videos, and I think it's pretty cool that there are that many people that watch these videos, and so I want to apologize for not doing as many videos as I probably should have. But I got something cool from God today, and so I wanted to share it with everybody. I was listening to the Bible as I was driving, because reading and driving is a bad thing, and you probably shouldn't do it. But I was listening to when God chose Moses to go and lead his people out of Egypt, and what I think was really cool about the whole process there was, out of all the Jews and all the things that have happened, you kind of skip from the story of where the Jews have, they've come to Egypt, and Joseph has brought his family in, and the family is they all kind of multiply, and the Egyptians are like, dude, there's a lot of Jews here, we're going to have to do something about that. And so when they decide to do something about that, you kind of pick up the story where Moses is, where all the Egyptians are slaves, and there's all kinds of bad things happening to the Jews, and it kicks off that ends up being like 400 years of slavery that the Jews go through, and God finally decides, okay, it's it. I'm going to pull my people out of Egypt, and I'm going to send them to Canaan. And so he picks Moses, of all people, Moses, and Moses ends up murdering one of the Egyptians because he sees him beating another Jew, and he doesn't like it. And that'll go into a whole nother story, like, why would God choose me? Well, why would God choose a murderer like Moses? And not only was he, and it wasn't just Moses that helped lead his people out of Egypt, but he also wrote, he sat down on the mountain and got the 10 Commandments from God, and he wrote the law. I mean, Moses sat down and wrote the law. You got to think, how odd is that God would pick Moses? But what I think is funny is we kind of look at life as if it's supposed to be fair. And we get mad at God when we feel like things aren't fair. We get frustrated with God because we think that, well, we deserve fair. We deserve this. We deserve that. And you'll hear the prosperity gospel preached, where you're supposed to, prosper, and God wants you to prosper, which that's not a lie. God does want you to prosper, for sure. But I think what's kind of funny is we don't have the same definition of prosper as God does. We don't have the same definition of fair as God does. See, Jesus says to the disciples, I've been put through these things, and if you're my student, I'm the teacher, then the student shouldn't be expected to be treated better than the teacher. He says that you need to be ready because this world's going to persecute you, and you're going to go through hard times. And I look at it and I think, man, all the Jews that went through 400 years of slavery were looking down like, why did God pick Moses? That's not fair. I was a good Jew. I followed God. I did all and when I say Jew, I mean Hebrew. Well, I was a good Hebrew. I did what I was supposed to do. I followed, all of these Abrahamic, the way that Abraham lived, and they followed in those covenants. Why would I then look at, Moses and think that it's fair that Moses got picked? And I thought about that for a second. I thought about how frustrating it might be to be one of those Hebrews that sees that Moses gets picked to be God's person to lead his people out of Egypt. It wasn't an easy job, so I don't know that it was the most, it was the greatest position to be picked for. But I think the point I'm trying to get to is that, sometimes when we understand prosper, we don't seem to understand that sometimes that prosper means that you stand firm in your faith despite when you're tortured. Sometimes prosper means to go through life in a poor situation to teach people that money and wealth is not what you depend on, but it's God. I guess at the end of the day, what I was listening to and what I kind of caught on was just the fact that, prospering is different in God's book. And if you feel like God's not treating you fairly, you feel like God's not there and that He doesn't love you because this is happening or that is happening, that's just a lie from the enemy. He loves you. He cares about you, and He wants you to prosper, but He wants you to prosper in the kingdom, the real kingdom, not this place. He wants you to prosper in a way that is eternal, not temporal. And so I want you to consider whether those things that you feel like, man, I did all these things and it feels like everybody else was blessed but me and everybody else got but me. Think about those things in a different way and consider, were those things that you wanted out of that, were they permanent? Were they eternal, or were they temporary? Was it fair in God's eyes? Was it equally distributed in a way where you feel like you were treated right? Because at the end of the day, if God really treated us like we deserve to be treated, Jesus would have never come. That's what God gave me today, guys. Love y'all. God bless.